Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Andy Serling in the clubhouse studio here at Aqueduct. Anthony Stabile to my left, joining me in just a moment as we move on towards the winter portion, though it's not technically winter yet, but it feels like it here at the Big A. Head over to Naira Bets. You're not a member of Naira Bets. Best way to play through Naira Bets. We'll match up to $200 deposit bonus. Use the promo code Big A. We're offering that $10 rebate if you bet $10 across the board in the first at Gulfstream, which will be going off not that long after the show. We got 8 to talk about, Anthony. Yes, you ready to get into today's card?
I am, sir.
All right, today's first race, a big scratch in today's first race. There was Kemba, who I felt was the worst to beat in here. You're taking Miss Leanna on top in here for Jimmy Ryerson.
Yeah, I am. Blinkers go on. Horse is going to get on a similar good track to the one ran on last time. Another rail draw, much smaller field this time. I'm hoping the experience. Joey Martinez is going to stay aboard. Maybe a little more aggressive from the rail draw with those blinkers on. Take a little shot with Miss Leanna today. Hopefully she's right around that 5-1. Obviously with the scratch, she's going to come down considerably. Maybe we get 3-1 today.
Right. The horse would have been 7-2 or 3-1 if they knew Kemba wasn't running. There's two horses that are figured to be forwardly placed in here. The one Miss Leanna and the 4 Twirling Faith. I prefer Twirling Faith, who comes out of a much tougher field for Jeremiah Englehart. They both ran very similar races. I thought hers a little bit better. It is worth noting that, and the track, finally, I think it got a more nationwide attention this weekend when we had the Cigar Mile, and people saw what we've been seeing for much of the meet, which is that much of the meet we've been dealing with a track that's played both very slowly, but also has been very unkind to horses trying to make up significant ground. And the ones who have been effective doing it were like the second place finisher in the Remsen. They ran far out of the kickback, and Joel Rosario kept that horse intentionally wide to keep him out of the kickback. And I'm not a kickback guy. I think it is a dramatically overused concept in much of the year.
I would agree.
But it is not overused at this Aqueduct meeting. But when it has not come into play that severely is after we've had weather. When we've had tracks with moisture in them, we have seen so far in the 6 weeks we've been here, we've seen much fairer tracks. So whether or not that's the case with the track, you'll be able to see from times today, but I imagine it'll be a fairer, and the times will be different. Other horse to talk about, the 3 My Sweet Cat. Linda Rice, not particularly effective with her first time starting, maiden claimers on dirt, but she did have a winner earlier in the meet. And even though there's not a lot of pedigree here, there's enough to suggest 3 of the 5 runners in the dam were runners, despite the dam not being good, and she may have found the right field.
Well, I think that's the key point here, right? Finding the right field. She would not have to be a world beater to get out of the maiden ranks at first asking today.
What about the Vilmot horse that's going turf to dirt for what it's worth? And I picked one later today. Turf to dirt with second-time starters overall. Not great numbers for Vilmot. For what it's worth with maidens, he's just 1 for 29. Second-time stars going turf to dirt. And this one, the pedigree really says more turf. And this one did no running.
Yeah, didn't do any running on the turf, so I think the only option is now to drop down and to try to horse on the dirt. A lot of guessing going on in the first race because we just don't have a lot to go on with these horses. And the first are in the first time dirt for Mott. She didn't do much running, and Linda's numbers aren't great.
Race number 2. The question becomes whether you're taking horses out of the race that we're going to watch here, where we've got a whole bunch of players, including the second place finisher, Miami Gina, and the third place finisher, Inclination. I would argue that Miami Gina ran the better race of the two because I thought he made the first attacking move in a race that actually ultimately collapsed, which was rare in these circumstances. I thought Imperial Brew did not get the best of rides, maybe making that move up the inside, but didn't run well. And I think Amagina is the one you want out of this race. I just don't really want anybody out of this group.
Yeah, I put Inclination second. I can see where you're coming from. My problem, I think, with your argument is, and your argument's right, I think Miami Gina did more running than Inclination. I just wonder, when Run for Boston's running by a field, I just worry about how true that race is.
But yet you've got the 6 who ran the worst race.
I do, because I think overall body of work, I think this horse is a little more reliable on the dirt than my Imogene
But
is.
Imogene has very few charts on the dirt, so I'm not sure. The last race was
Okay.
good enough. Kind of disagree. I think you have to talk about Imperial Brew. I think Imperial Brew will run better today. How much better remains to be seen. The truth is, we all took somebody for the same reason, and the chances of somebody being 4-1 in the second race are the chance of my growing a second head on my shoulder. He figures to be favored, and he won't be anywhere near 4-1 because he's coming out of a different group. He broke slowly last time. He did a little bit of running, not a lot, but he's got back races that can win. I think most people are going to see. I just don't want horses that are coming out of the 5th race on November 20th, and somebody just falls into a position where you end up taking him by default.
Yeah, you take the winner out of there. He got beat a little less than 6 lengths for second last time out. It was off a break. And I think more importantly, he's stretching back out to the mile where he's just a little faster in the mile races. His numbers are better going the mile.
But there has to be a concern with his recent form.
Sure,
I think
no
it's
question.
legitimate. The one Let's Go Mets is a funny horse in here, and you have to imagine Manny Franco and Ray Handel have only one thing in mind. Send him and hope he gets clear. This is a horse that clearly has significant issues in finishing races. Now, he managed to somehow do it last time out in the turf. We'll see if the trainer change can do it. He's running him a mile, but this is a horse that has given it up in some. I mean, that all-clear race was about as ridiculously easy a spot as you will ever see. It makes this look like a stake race, and he stopped on the turn.
He's vulnerable because if he doesn't get to the lead.
Well, he's going to get the lead if he breaks.
And now he's going to get to the lead. I can't see
Focus outrunning him. He's too fast, and they have to know to be aggressive.
They have to know to be aggressive.
He gets into any kind of dogfight, and he'll quit a quarter mile into the race.
Yeah.
Race number 3. I saw race number 3 as fairly cut and dry.
I did too.
By the way, Jose, there's something weird about my replays, right? What am I looking at in race number 3? Oh, I got it. No, forget it. Don't worry about the replays just yet. I think the 8-5 morning line favorite Allen's Argument is going to be extremely hard to beat in this race. He comes out of a very tough field. He had a little bit of trouble at the start and he rushed up. This is a horse that sold for a lot of money off a very impressive 2-year-old workout, Salem's workout. And I just think you're going to see a horse that's a heavy favorite, probably 6-7-5 in here, and is just likely to beat this field. I'm not getting cute with somebody else in here. I understand there are workout information about a horse, but in my opinion, Allen's Argument is going to be extremely hard to beat. I think he's an unusual horse in this race, in my opinion.
Okay. I thought this was the 5 or the 6. I took the bigger price. I don't disagree. Allen's Argument is clearly the horse to beat. Well, there's a story on the 6 working well. Yeah.
I get it.
He's working well. I like the way Jimmy's pulling some of the Chiefs' old moves, the 6 furlong breeze right before the race. And quite frankly, I just wanted a horse against a favorite. I'm going to try Punchline. I'm using the 5 and the 6. In the pick 3 and the pick 4, the pick 4 and the pick 5, and I feel very confident doing that in here because, like you said, this race is going to go through Allen's Argument. If Punchline's ready off the break and
Punchline's going out for a trainer who has won exactly 1 race since the month September started.
Yep.
So in 3.5 months, Jimmy Jerkins won 1 race. I'm Jimmy Jerkins' fan. I'm a friend, but his barn is extremely chilly right now. And I think this horse is going to take money. I know Mo Gaccio beat him, improved a lot. The second horse, Vehement, is a turf horse. And while he improved in his next start, it was because he ran on the turf. I think this is a horse that obviously there's a story and he's working well and there's a tip on this horse. I get it. I don't think Freedom Prince for a maiden 30 is without a chance in here because it's true. This horse is running legitimately fast races and doing it against reasonable company. He should never have lost this race. He just shouldn't have lost. Now, probably Joey Martinez should have tried to stay towards the inside because the inside was a place to be, and when the horse who beat him somehow magically came back on, it was when he ducked down towards the inside. And I wonder if Freedom Prince had stayed down on the inside if he would have won. But having said that, he shouldn't have lost. I still think he's been pretty good, and unfortunately, I have turn-back numbers for Tommy Albertrani are not that good. He's got to be good going 6.5, and most of his races have been going long.
Yeah, I didn't have that number on Tommy. I'm more worried about this horse. This horse was just, and I know he only has the 1 sprint, but, he's in for the tag. You got to think he's not the fastest of the fast. So stretching out his speed is probably going to be to his benefit. Now he's dropping in from the 30, and I know this isn't the toughest maiden special weight race. He's moving up from the 30, and this isn't the toughest maiden special weight event he's ever going to find. But between that and the cutback, I mean, I got him, and I got him third, but he's a long way. There's a big gap between the 5 and 6 and the 7.
Agree. The 6 is a bit of a tip in the story, and if he happens to run, then he has a chance.
But there's a lot of speed in here. Don't you agree with that?
No, I don't. Okay. I think Alan's argument will Stalker be in front. Irish Roar is not impossible. We'll show his last race at Churchill Downs, and he could be aggressive. I mean, I think that Dylan needs to become more aggressive. I think Dylan's a smart rider. He knows how to ride, but I think he consistently gets caught not being aggressive as he could be at times, and it works against him. And I mean, what's he going to do with Irish Roar if not go, right?
Got to. He has to. That's why I think they're speeding here. I think he has to go.
Rating speed horses is not usually a positive,
No, I think he has to go. Mikey Tenozzo's horse, Ink Splots, was fast early last time. I think he has to go.
Right. He's a little over his head.
Yeah, he's a little over his head, but, I mean, these are horses that have to go. Point of Humor is not as fast, but his best races are when he's forwardly placed, and they have to at least try. He's on the wrong surface, but they have to at least try with him. I mean, I think there's
Mikey brought Wilmer Garcia in for this mount.
Mikey's birthday today. Three legends, Bob Barker, Frank Sinatra, and Mike Tenozzo. Their birthdays all today.
Frank and Bob take a back seat to Mikey T. Race number 4, you and I had the same opinion in here, but there's no doubt in race number 4 the 2 Quizzical Cajun is the horse to beat. We'll take a look at Quizzical Cajun, 2 races back, losing by a nose to a Clement horse that would be 1-9 in here. Probably should have put this horse on top. It's not as though he's losing races at super short prices, but he is 5 times second with 1 win and 9 starts, which is unusual for Jason Service, but he is faster than these horses.
Yeah.
He is much the horse to beat.
You and I are probably on the same page with the 5, but as far as this horse goes, I'll tell you what stopped me from putting this horse on top. Obviously, Maximum Security, and then Happy Farm in the Fall Highway, and he won with Laytone down in the Claiming Crown. Jason Service's numbers at the meet that we reset the numbers now because this is the winter meet. His numbers weren't great. They certainly weren't They were nowhere near Jason Service-like numbers.
Because it depends who he's running.
Yeah, I worry a little bit.
I don't remember him losing with usual Jason Service horses, but and I do remember some of his horses running unusually well. I mean, that performance off the claim for that horse on the turf at Aqueduct was ridiculous. I have no idea where a horse could get a race like that from.
They were fewer and further between than they normally are.
But a lot of them were the Quizzical Cajuns. They sort of ran their races. I don't think they dramatically underperformed. I think the horse is going to take a lot of money here is Danny Bear. And it is a switch to Danny Gargan. And listen, I'm never surprised when switches to Danny Gargan run better than their races suggest. This horse better. I know he has a fast figure last time. It was 6.5 furlongs at Gulfstream Park West. Somebody said to me, what is the figure you will likely find most unreliable in your life? I would say Gulfstream Park West going 6.5 furlongs, which is an unusual distance. This is 2 back for him. I don't think there's any way that this horse ran that figure last time out and losing. I just don't think he's good enough to beat these horses, but he is first-time Gargan, so perhaps he will move forward. But I think he needs to move forward a lot.
I agree. I agree. We saw this race exactly the same, I think.
Which is a bad sign, which means Sneakiness has no shot, but
Correct.
Go ahead.
I mean, you got to like the fact that, this horse was in for the tag for the first time. She took the horse as soon as the horse was in for the tag. And it appears, and I could be wrong, that she rested this horse for the winter. She brings this horse back in the starter. So it's not like one of these horses where she reached in and took this horse, Linda reached in and took this horse for 50, and she's eating him. She took him for 50, I feel, with a plan to make some money with him here this winter. He's protected. He's got the break. He's here now in the winter. I think we're going to see if this horse comes back good. And, you could argue.
Did we show the stat yet?
He was running okay, and then he ran the best race he's probably run when he broke his maiden last time out. I think that's a good sign.
But whether or not it's good enough to beat Jason's horse remains to be seen. Giving horses 3 to 6 month layoffs off the claim. At Aqueduct, Linda has pretty good numbers, so this is a move that's worked in the past, and I agree. This is something she's probably doing here. Not an easy field, though. I mean, you got Bustin Hoffman, who finished first last time, was justifiably DQ'd, and he was able to be sort of on a fairly tepid pace, though for that racetrack it was pretty quick. And you've got Mohican, too, who's off the claim on the dirt for Rudy, and it's not like his dirt races are bad. This is an entry that's not impossible in here. Both have a chance.
And he comes back off of a race where I know he didn't make an impact on the finish, but you got to think that mile on the 16th race last time got him good and tight for this spot. right? He
You
was
do,
forwardly
I don't,
He
but
was forwardly placed. He was chasing a pretty hot early first 3/8 of a mile. I know it simmered down a little bit going to the half, but
No, that was a fast pace. You're right.
Yeah,
That was
I
a
think
very
he got a
fast pace.
good, he got a good blow out of that race. I don't disagree.
Yeah, no, he's a horse that's had success in the turf, but he might be running on the surface.
I took
and
a
he's
page
better
out of
on
your
right
book
now.
here. I think you could make a case for both parts of the entry, and I think that's going to hurt their price because I think they both would have to come up with better races to get the money in here.
Yeah, we'll see. It depends. I mean, obviously, Quizzical Cajun runs his race. He's probably going to win. We'll see how things work out in race number 4. Race number 5 is an odd race, and there have been some times that I find questionable, and you can use personal preference or not. When I find times that I don't believe around here, I look at Trackus.
Okay.
And David Aragona brought it to my attention that the time on the board for the race that Persisto, and I think we can show that replay, and why don't we take a look at that In to Win and Persisto ran 2-3 in, the time on the board I think was 1:40.48. And the time they used in the chart was 1:40.17. I don't like the hand times they use here. I find too often I don't agree with them. And there's a chance that this time was significantly slower. Now, to be fair, Waterway came back and ran okay in the Demoiselle, but
she did
run 8 Beyer points slower than she did in winning this race. So there is the argument that this race was probably a full second slower. So I think it's possible that these figures belong in the low 70s to 70 and not 79. And if that's the case, I don't think these two horses are going to be as short as they may be here. And I'm a little bit skeptical of them. I do probably prefer them over AJ Rock, but not by a lot.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. I would certainly be concerned if they're coming home in 28 seconds.
Well, on this racetrack at Aqueduct, we saw a lot of that, though.
Yeah.
This track has been very deep and tiring, and it's been producing extremely slow times, and particularly slow final fractions. So it's not outside of what we've seen quite a bit.
No.
And I don't know if the final time isn't accurate, then I don't know if the fractional times, and I have not looked at Trackus for this one. I will look at Trackus after the show and talk about it in the prattle. Is AJ Rock the horse coming from Churchill? Are we so convinced he can't be okay? The horse who beat him came back, albeit in the slop, but improved his Beyer figure 2 points. I think he's a player for Peter Miller. Don't see Peter Miller with too many horses here.
No, you don't. That's number 1. Number 2, at the very least, she is a fresh face, and this is her finishing second last time out behind that repeat winner, Rising Seas. You don't see him come up here often. This horse is coming out of a sprint. This horse tried a turf sprint first time out of Kentucky Downs, which kind of plays a little longer than the 6.5 furlong distance it's run at, and then came back with a good effort at the same 6.5 furlong distance on the dirt. Now she stretches out. She was forwardly placed last time. You'd have to imagine that on the stretch out she's going to be forwardly placed. Cancel's riding well. Yeah, if you...
But one of the reasons Eric has been more successful
he's been aggressive.
is he's been more aggressive.
Yeah.
He's got his horses in
that
the
ride on Saratoga Treasure in the autumn days on the turf was great because she made the big move on the turn.
I'm not sure it was great. It was the winning move. I'm not knocking him. It won. I'm not saying it was a bad ride. I don't know. It just worked out.
There are times he would have waited. There are times he would have waited a lot longer.
Joel got himself into a jackpot, which I love Joel as a turf sprint rider. But if you ride the way Joel, there are going to be times you're going to get caught and get in trouble. Harv's Little Goyle. There is dirt in this pedigree. The dam's a half to olive another, which I didn't know. Dave was telling me that last night. I know this horse a half to Stifle Yourself, who won on the turf, but also another who was good on the turf. The Stifle Yourself was good in the dirt. Either this is a smart move by the Mott Barn or a shockingly stupid move. And if he doesn't run well in the dirt, my suggestion is get this horse down to Florida. Because Harvey's Little Goyle didn't run well. Harvey's Little Girl ran amazingly well in her debut. Because not only was she behind a fairly moderate pace that completely stayed together, not only that, but she was wide every single step of the way, and that was the period that week when the rails were down, and on both turf courses you had to save ground at least a significant portion of the race to have any chance to be effective. And this horse was the only horse passing horse in the stretch, and this horse ran extremely well last time, and I couldn't wait to bet Harvey's Little Goyle back on the turf. Now they're running on the dirt. I wasn't going to pick this horse, but I don't really love anybody in here. And I'm going to hope they're being smart, and they've got a horse that can handle the dirt. If this horse does not run well here, get her the turf as quickly as possible, or wait until the spring and run her here, because her first race was very, very good.
And I agree with you 100%. It's the reason I did not pick her, because I thought the turf race was much better than it even appears. And I just, you know, she's going to go to the other surface.
You don't need to reiterate what
Yeah,
I said. I
yeah.
get it.
You know
The
what I'm
number
trying to say?
I can't. What is the number one's name? Are you calling this race?
No, I'm calling the third. Senenga
What is it?
I think it's Senenga.
Good.
I like him to win, by the way, just because, you know, you feel like the first time she was entered, because Mrs. S was a big favorite and looked like they needed the race to go, and I think she was better prepared second time. I think she ran the better race, and
I don't know that she ran the better race. I think they both ran the same races.
No. She ran she ran a better,
She ran
much
well
better
last
race.
time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny it. And, you know, I'm just a little bit concerned that race itself may not be as
Understandable.
good as we originally thought, and it's going to get bet off the assumption it was better. Race number 6 is a race that really doesn't have any center. The center of the race was probably Collegeville Girl, who ran poorly last time after running fairly well in her time before that. She's not going to play. You and I originally, I'm not picking the same horse as you in a goofy race, but Bustin' Scones, who you've got on top and I've got second here, obviously the hope is that Gary's Barn, Contessa's Barn, has been doing better lately since this horse was last running, because this horse's race on September 7th will beat this field. That I'm confident of.
And let's be honest here. Again, another A other than, right? This is an allowance race, but this is not the toughest A other than. I know it's a big field. There's 11 fillies in here after the scratch, but this isn't the toughest field she's going to find. She's just been running against better, and this is hard. She's been running against better horses in this condition.
I agree with you.
It's plain and simple.
Yeah.
And this race it's kind of a dressed up A other than. I mean, this isn't really an A other than. She's not going to be 10-1. She'll be 5-1. Gary's Barn's been going well.
And I think that Jose Martinez has been riding very well.
Joey's been riding well. Yeah.
He's been riding extremely well, and I don't think it's going to hurt. I'll tell you that.
Nope,
I mean,
I agree.
Be knocking Benji, but I think Joey's ridden very well.
Yeah.
He's really showing that promise that he had shown a year ago, and he's been riding much, much better. We'll see. I mean, I do think this horse is a major player. I moved to fight on Lucy when you're going to pick the 8, just have a different opinion. I had her second. You know, I thought she actually ran very well to break her maiden. Now, whether or not she's going to get much pace in this race remains to be seen. But she did make a run, and I don't really think she ran that badly last time out. We saw Carlisle Bell come back with another competitive performance. And in this field, I think Fight on Lucy, and I also think Bustin' Scones, the scratch, I got a feeling Bustin' Scones could be favored in this race the more I looked at it.
Do you really?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people will see what we saw. And the other thing is, it's not like her races after that 75 aren't good enough to compete in this race, because honestly, where are people supposed to go in this race, Anthony?
I think they are going to, and she is a reluctant second choice for me, but I think they're going to see the 2 wins in a row for Linda's Ballet.
Well, this horse has absolutely no chance whatsoever, none. I mean, her winning a sloppy sealed track will get her absolutely last in this race.
You're right. I think
where are her races?
Listen,
what would anybody like about this horse's dirt races?
I feel like you can sink your teeth in, especially with Collegeville Girl gone. I feel like you can really sink your teeth into Bustin' Scones today.
Well, what about Love and Love? I mean, cutting back in distance. I think it's a little slow, but not impossible. Dance, you got turf horses, you've got slow horses. I mean, I think that Tis a Kitten is a little bit interesting in this race because she has back dirt races that are okay, and it seems like her turf form has improved recently. So maybe she's a little improved, and she has handled the dirt in the past. So maybe she's not impossible in this race. I'm going to use basically the 6, 8, the 4, 6, 8, and 11. And the 6 and 8 will be the 2 I'll use the most. I don't have a strong opinion here, other than the fact that if the 12-horse Linda's Ballet takes money in here, I think you have to dive into this race with both fists, because in my opinion, she's a legitimate 20-1. It's like somebody said to me, they're like Winifred J in here. Do you think she'll be the morning line of 8-1? Now, she's not an 8-1 morning line because the favorite scratch, so she's probably a 6-1 morning line. I think she should be 60-1 in here. Her dirt races,
they're not good.
She'll be behind, believe it or not, Linda's Ballet, which won't be easy. So I don't really get it. I mean, I think you want dirt horses, and I think that people need to. There will be an occasional turf horse that may win here this winter, one of these horses. But you've got to look at their dirt races if they have them. But in general, betting at this time of the year, betting against horses that are getting bet in dirt races off their turf form, it's just a terrible idea, I think.
betting on horses off their turf.
Yeah, and it's been proven over time. I mean, we've seen it already. We've seen some horses that took money that have no dirt.
Real head scratches.
They're nowhere.
Yeah, real head scratches.
Race number 7. So David's got Payne as a heavy favorite in race number 7.
Really?
Maybe. I don't know. David's usually right about these things, and here was his win. Tell you, he worked awfully hard to win last time. I don't know where the second horse came with that race, though. Do you?
No, I don't. It looked like American Rule was going to get the candy this day, but I don't know where this race came from. Man, I hate taking short prices on horses who you just can't trust. And this horse is not. He is not trustworthy. He's just not.
No, he's been a headache, but he's talented.
That's a good word. He's been a headache.
What about identity politics? Here's his second at Saratoga to Baracho. Baracho's a good horse. I mean, he proved it in his other races. But I thought he had his chance. He too was going to try to get a mile today. I kind of prefer him over Payne at a better price, but I'm not thrilled with either one of these horses.
You know what's funny? We talk about this all the time, right? When the Chad Brown horses have 4 or 5 starts and they haven't broken their maiden. I think it holds true for this as well. Payne has run 8 times. Identity Politics has run 10 times. Neither's tried a mile yet. I don't want to say desperation, but
Chad doesn't think they want to go. They want less.
I do like Identity Politics a little more than Payne, like you do. But do I love either one of these horses? No. I think it's hard to.
I'll tell you something else about Mr. Dougie Fresh, who I happen to agree with you is the horse to beat in this race, and I'm not going to be surprised when he's vying for favoritism.
Me either.
I'm very curious because Complexity got the 101 buyer last time. I think it's a 106. And I think Mr. Dougie Fresh is a 92. I don't think Mr. Dougie Fresh ran a little worse than he ran the time before. I actually think he ran better. I think he ran back to his better race. He's got blown off the track by a horse who looked like the second coming in that race.
Who ran to his grade 1 win.
I think he's the horse to beat in this race, Mr. Dougie Fresh. And he's also forwardly placed.
And another one that's getting back to a distance in which his races are faster. He wants the mile.
What you know is he's an effective miler.
Yeah.
You don't know if the 6 or 8 are effective milers. You know Mr.
No,
Dougie
we don't,
Fresh
but we know at the very least his fastest races of his life have come going this mile.
They were also early in the Jason Service incantation, too.
Yeah, they were.
Maybe, the other argument against is he's tailed off.
But he has. But you see, I don't know if I can argue that. He's gotten a little slower, but he's been competitive in his races. The one race he wasn't competitive was the True North.
Yeah, I don't love the trip he got 2 races back at Parks either. As far as Musical America, obviously, I don't think he's the horse to beat in this race. What I do think is he's a horse that is going to run significantly better than his odds. His last race at Churchill is very, very, very good. And that was off the claim for Robert Bone and Bob Bone and Jason Barkley. And now he goes to Rob Atras, who does nothing but win. And you look at that race, look where the other speeds. This was a complete and utter collapse, this race, a total meltdown. And yet he hung on for 4th. The other speeds ran absolutely nowhere in here. And I think it is worth looking up that race if you're playing here. He does have back figures that actually are fast enough to give him a sniff here. He's run a 90 buyer. Now, he's also never won in the dirt. Do I think he's the horse to beat? No. But I think he's a horse that's going to be 10 to 15 to 1 in here that has a significantly better chance to win than his odds. So for me, he's the kind of horse I have to pick, and I think he'll outrun his odds. It may result in a 3rd place finish, or worse. But I believe it'll outrun his odds. And these are the kind of horses I pick all the time. I'll tell you another horse that's got to be mentioned here. And it's important to discuss this stuff. I don't care about the time. Aquaphobia. This horse is actually better bred for dirt. This is a dirt family.
But he's never dirted.
He's never tried the dirt. But at least this horse has dirt. But he's also found himself in an extremely tough field
to
try the dirt first time.
Sure does.
I like them more than Illudare. And I want to say something about Illudare, who will probably take some money. Illudare's big fig win was riding a gold rail. So, riding a gold rail. So, I'm not Illudare's biggest fan. We'll see what he does off the layoff. Race number 8. You picked Crypto Gold. Anthony loves turf horses trying the dirt.
I did. I don't know. What am I supposed to do in here?
Bet against this horse. This horse is going to take money. 8 to 5 morning line.
Oh, I didn't have the morning line. Oh, I did not have. I wouldn't have taken it. Okay.
The favorite here is going to be the 8 final set.
Yeah, I would think so, right?
I think. Maybe they'll bet this horse off dirt fix.
I have no idea.
I hate Crypto Gold. I have him 4th because I couldn't find anybody else. But no, I didn't like him at all.
No, I'm going to use the 2, 5, and 8. Who you have? The 9, Painter's Prize.
Yeah, Painter's Prize.
I'm using the 2, 5. I'm using 2 5s and 8s, and that's it. I'll be honest with you. I thought he was going to be the longest price of Loaded Joe and Final Say because They have dirt form, and he doesn't have any. I never thought he'd be the
Maybe a
more
lot
line
of people
favorite.
fall for him the way you are, and that's what David seems to think. I don't bet turf horses in these races.
I know you don't.
You do. Final Say did run in the kickback for part of the race last time out, so I actually moved his last race up a little bit. And I thought could be a little bit better than it looks. It's hard to have a strong opinion on any of these horses. I mean, you know, they've done Loaded Joe, and Loaded Joe's a little tough to take because his dirt races, he has a 1-6 furlong race in the dirt that's pretty good. We're out of time. Johnny I with a reprise of the Scratches and Changes.